I want students to understand that just because they're applying to an HBCU, because oftentimes we hear it, that, hey, I have a 3.1 or a 3.5, and I got money from this school and I got money from that school. The challenge is that some of our counterparts that relates to our PWIs, they have diversity scholarships. They have money that's set aside just for our African-American students. And of course, we don't have, collectively as institutions, we don't nearly have the endowment right to cover in terms of, where these scholarships are funded, right? So we may not have the endowments as some of our counterparts. So yeah, money can tend to be, I'll say this, Florida A&M does have money, but we're very strategic on how we allocate those funds. So, but a student with an 1100 may get a scholarship at, Tuskegee, using Joe's previous institution, may get a scholarship, or even with 1150, they may get a scholarship at one of the other HBCUs, but at Florida A&M, when our average is an 1140 of our incoming class, it does make it a little bit more challenging. And of course, students were above and below that, but if 1140 is the bar, we come in above that for our academic scholarships.
I'd like to make a brief comment. This is where we, the Common Black College application, has kind of shifted the paradigm in terms of this whole scholarship process. When you think about students are applying to 67 different colleges, more often than not, if a student has a 3.0 or better, they're going to be in a position to receive a scholarship to all of those colleges, quite frankly. I'm sure many of you have probably seen students that have gone viral where they receive multiple acceptance letters, multiple scholarship offers. 9 times out of 10, they've used the Common Black College application. And a lot of those students, or a fair amount at least, don't even have a 3.0. It could range anywhere between a 2.8, 2.9. So what we're trying to do is create informed consumers. So you're in a position where you have several different financial aid packages, scholarship offers as a result of completing the Common Black College app. And that's definitely something that I hope you're sharing with your students.
Excellent. Excellent. Nancy Campbell, can you share a recent comment in the chat, please?
Oh my, there's so much going on in the chat.
Can you give Akil Bellows comment around funding while we're on that?
We're talking about scholarships, excuse me. But the last comment I think that Akil put in is that funded scholarships versus discount scholarships was a great point. He said that Jesse has started compiling a list of colleges that offer some or many scholarships without test scores. So there is a link in the chat for that. Thanks, Akil, for making that information available. One of the last questions is from Michelle Johnson, our friend, who really talks about college displacement. And she asks, if students earn private scholarships, will their institutional aid be reduced? For anybody on the panel with that one.
Yeah, that's so here at A&T, it's possible. There are scenarios where that isn't the case. There's a couple different things I think about in terms of what scholarship agencies, when they distribute their money, they actually have rules, and some of those rules are, this money must pay for tuition. Well, if we've already covered your tuition, we have two options. One of the options is return the aid back to the scholarship foundation and say XY student tuition is covered for the semester or for the year, or we have a conversation with the student to say, do you want to return it to the foundation, or do you want to use it onto your account? And so in that case, it causes a reduction in the scholarship here. And then we take our funded scholarship and then we redistribute it to students who are in need. So there's Akil made a really good comment in the chat, which was around the percentile of our students who are in need. So our institutions are typically hovering well above 50% in terms of Pell eligible students. And so we have a much larger percentile of students who need funding versus to the other side of the spectrum, which is students who can afford to be, and their families can afford to pay for them to be in school. So there will be cases, and there can be cases where the institution funded scholarship can be reduced to bring in a private scholarship. There are times where private scholarships can be added to the student award letter and can be refunded to the student. However, there are rules to us being able to do that because there's a max amount that we can actually refund to a student. So contrary to what some people believe, we can't just, a student gets, let's say, for instance, they get a $10,000 scholarship. We refund that $10,000 scholarship. We now look at what is the total amount of money has been awarded to the student over the course of this academic year to make certain that we stay under the refund amount, our total aid that's applied to a particular student's account. So there's a lot of different things that schools and administrators are juggling when trying to make a decision about whether or not we will reduce aid or whether or not we will allow the student to carry the aid and then get refunded.
Thank you, Joe. And Hugh, I'm going to address a slightly different question to you, and I'm going to change the conversation just a little bit and shift it to the student experience, the on-campus experience, and the diversity on HBCUs, which many people do not know that there are many, many campuses across the country who are more diverse than we think.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's one of the reasons why a student chooses an HBCU, right? Is because of the simple fact that there's going to be diversity, which we, of course, we celebrate every day on our campuses. And then when you think about it, right, you also look at the fact that, once again, I think I hinted at it earlier, you're in a very family yet collegial atmosphere. So it allows for students to really share information about internship opportunities. It allows students to rally together to get through that difficult assignment in a class. Of course, when you look at our respective classes, when you look at our respective campuses, we have a great social atmosphere in the sense that an amazing homecoming where students come from all over, alumni come from all over the world back to the campus to embrace our students and celebrate our culture. When you look at obviously, going to a HBCU football game is going to be different from, going to a PWI's football game. And there's just a lot of energy, right? And there is the celebrating of our amazing bands. So when you look at the social atmosphere, I think when you look at an HBCU, that's going to give students the best balance of rigorous academics and the best balance of a great social experience. And then when we talk about diversity, I'll say that Florida A&M, we're about 79% African American, and that other 21% is going to be Hispanic students, because of course Latinx, Florida, we have one of the fastest growing Latinx populations in the country. You're going to see a thriving Caucasian population, right? Because they're understanding that, hey, I can actually get this degree for cheaper, and then I can still go on to medical school, which actually, or law school, which will actually put me in a different space than maybe some of my counterparts who went to that PWI. So they're starting to recognize, right, the value and the advantage that it gives them in moving forward with profession as far as it relates to career opportunities, and especially graduate or professional school. So diversity is celebrated, and that's one thing that I love at my HBCU. Is celebrated every day, and our students are going to be that perfect blend of, they are brilliant, they are smart, they are talented, they are entrepreneurs, but at the same time, when it comes down to it, they handle business in the classroom, but at the same time, they also know how to have a good time.
Candace, I'd like to make a comment about diversity, if I may.
Sure.
So, as many of you know, I spent a number of years, more than 20 years on the HBCU campus at Clark Atlanta University. And one of the things I would say, first of all, is that many HBCUs that I have interacted with and worked with over the years have focused on internationalization of their student body. And oftentimes that is captured in their strategic plan, and they are very intentional about that. We were at Clark Atlanta. For years, we had many students from sub-Saharan Africa, and for at least the last 10 to 15 years, we had a contract with the Saudi Arabia government where we brought in cohorts of Saudi students every year at both the undergraduate and the graduate levels. And so oftentimes when we think about diversity on our HBCU campuses, we don't think about the international students, nor do we think about the fact that many HBCUs offer robust study abroad programs, which also contribute to that student's experience with diversity.
Thank you, Dr. Fennell. Joe, did you want to weigh in on that concept, diversity, student experience?
Diversity is a part of our strategic plan. So our growth model includes the growth of populations that are not common populations at A&T. So the Hispanic population is one that we're concentrating on. Obviously, a more robust international population, and then all others. And so we have a desire to be at 25% diverse. And I think this group should also know that there are some schools where, let's use West Virginia State University. There are more white kids at West Virginia State University than there are Black kids, although it's a HBCU. You think about Houston-Tillotson, there's 27 to 28% of Hispanic students at Houston-Tillotson. You think about Paul Quinn, they are in the 30s in terms of 30 percentile in terms of Hispanic students who are studying at Paul Quinn. They are now designated as an HSI and an HBCU. So we have diversity amongst the kinds of schools, all of our schools stretching across the US. So this notion that we are serving African Americans only is only crystallized by the section or sector of schools that have been named historically Black colleges and universities. Like if we had a different name, I think people wouldn't hold on to this notion that we only serve African Americans. And then also how we were birthed. We were actually birthed for a reason, to educate a certain type of people. So there's these other blocks that hurts us in terms of growing diversity on our campuses. And then many of us are in North Carolina, we're competing for students at a level that most historically Black colleges and universities don't have to compete at. We have 5 public HBCUs in the state, along with 12 other UNC system public schools that are very large schools. And so to think about diversity and how we get to diversity, also thinking about what is the competition that we're faced against in our geography, like in our back door. Could we be more diverse if we had the ability to enroll more students from outside of the state of North Carolina? I think A&T could really get to about 50% diverse if we could, but there's too many constraints for us to be able to get there.
I love that both of you highlighted the idea that there is a significant shift into the Spanish-speaking population, the Hispanic population, into HBCUs who are feeling very warm and welcomed in that space. So I appreciate that. Tom Butler.
Thank you, Candace. Gentlemen, you have probably 90% of the people on this Zoom today are practitioners. Please give us your advice as to what places or things they should have in their toolbox to constantly keep themselves abreast of HBCU issues, of new topics and trends. I mean, so again, anything you can drop a nugget, you can drop, even if it's a single nugget, please provide that for us so we know that we keep this. Again, we are infiltrated in Philadelphia, of course, and not in a bad way, but we probably somebody, if you ask them about something about Community College Philadelphia, they could take you there. Temple, they could take you there. Penn State, they could take you there. Any of the universities that are in and around the Philadelphia region. But how does one keep in their toolbox information so they can be up on top of HBCU information?
So if I may go first, I think one of the spaces is definitely College Board puts on a very good Dream Deferred HBCU conference. So that puts a lot of us in a lot of spaces to interact with a lot of counselors and higher ed professionals, right, that are trying to gain more knowledge on HBCUs, as well as that are allies of HBCUs. So I think that's a great space because a lot of best practices, topics, and trends are addressed in that space. I also say that I think it's also important to stay connected. So you have Joe's information right at A&T, you have my information at Florida A&M, and stay connected with us. We want opportunities to come to your. Now, yes, we get a lot of college fair requests, but we want that opportunity to be able to try to get to your school. We want that opportunity to maybe have a special session where we're able to go in and speak to a class. We want those opportunities so that we will be able to kind of make sure that we're debunking and clarifying anything for the students that maybe any misconception they may have had. So I think those are two great ways. In addition, obviously there are a lot of us, if there's if you're, for those that are really organized, I try to develop spreadsheets for everything, and I list all the schools, I put their application deadlines, I list what's the requirements for scholarships, and most importantly, as you interact with students, just make sure that they're going through the process and applying to our institutions early. Don't have them wait till, a January, February, or March, because by that time seats are already being allocated, deposits have already been paid, and it becomes more and more challenging the closer you get to that May 1st deadline for a space to become available. So I just think off the top of my head, those are two great spaces. I mean, I've always known of the legend, Joe Montgomery, but I was able to connect with him at a conference, meeting him face to face for the first time at a College Board HBCU Dream Deferred conference. So I think that's a great way. Any professional development opportunities that are geared specifically for created for our HBCU spaces.
So those are great comments. We have not done a good job with communicating with school counselors and our CBOs. Our organization was built to serve. When I say organization, our offices, our student services unit was really built to accommodate about 15,000 applications. And as of yesterday, we were like at 36,000. And so we did not shift the organization along with the growth in interest. So it's taking everything we got just to try to stay ahead and try to respond to our interests at a level that it's not where we want it to be, but we are trying to keep up. There is a tool that we will release by this fall that will allow us to build a community for school counselors and for independent counselors, of those that are trying to help students to college. That will allow us to have a frequent communication with school counselors about our process, what we are doing. And so as we are thinking about how we're going to respond to our applicants, I want to be able to say in a community of school counselors so that they can have stronger conversations with their family members or families about decisions that are being made at A&T. So if we're going to release our decisions, I can say we're releasing our decisions. Here's in general what students look like in this release. But here are the characteristics of students that are going to fall on the wait list. So they have a clear understanding to how to have tough conversations with students when they learn about the outcome of the application process. So that is something that is on what I call my to-do list, but that is an immediate piece of my to-do list so that as we get into the next academic cycle, I want our key stakeholders to have the opportunity to jump into the community, to remain into the community, and then we respond to them to ensure that we're educating those that are helping us, we're educating them about what we're doing on our side so that you all can have the proper conversations with students and families. So I just want to admit we're not doing a good job, Tom.
Well, and that's fair, and we appreciate your candor and about that. I was really trying to focus more, I think, where Hugh was starting, which are what are those national, and I think Akil's comment just now kind of went to that. What is out there nationally? So Hugh mentioned the College Boards Diversity Conference or HBCU conference. Are there other places and spaces? Because again, that's an expensive proposition. And probably a lot of folks who are on this Zoom cannot afford to get to that, which is part of the reason why PCPR exists. So we can bring it back to locally. But I guess the question again becomes what? So I'm thinking more like about periodicals, literature, data resources. Where are those places that a person can go to probably without having to travel, that we can read up on, understand, know what the landscape is on HBCUs comparatively against other or with other institutions around the country. And you may not have that right now. I was just wondering if you had something that you rely on, you validate from your end as leaders of enrollment services at HBCUs.
So, Tom, you are describing what I would call a dream, where there would be like a central repository for our institutions to communicate with a community of people who are interested in our schools. I can't think of a central repository that I can refer to this group, because I would want to refer them to a source that is not necessarily driven by alumni, but driven by current university administrators, because what was may not be anymore.
Right.
So we want to make certain that we are the people that are helping young people today, that they're getting the proper information for guidance, right? And so Akil asked, you know, what I was describing, is that a tool that will be for many HBCUs? No, that's an A&T investment. And I'm asking Hugh not to steal my thunder and jump out there and do it first. But I think concepts like communities, where school counselors can jump into communities to learn about our institutions, so that they have a place of comfort to go to. If I got to advise my kid about how to get into FAMU, then I got to go to the website. And as a parent, I'm concerned about a certain type of concerns. As a school counselor, you actually have different things. You're thinking about, well, is FAMU a Common App school? How do we get the documents to FAMU? Is FAMU a slate school? Is FAMU this? And like, you have so many other questions, because based upon the responses to all those questions, it helps you understand my role as a school counselor to help facilitate the application process. So I want to be able to create a community that allows for all of this stuff to live, so that you all can go in, see the resources, and say, okay, here's how you get to A&T. Here's how you put yourself in the best position to compete for the best scholarships. Here's how you put yourself in the best position to get one of the 1,013 spaces for out-of-state students, right? So you got to kind of understand, it's not just applying, it's about how do I navigate the process to put my student in the best competition or best space for competition, right? So sometimes it's about timing. Not that the student isn't a great student. It is, the student is a great student, but I've already made so many decisions on certain students that I can't make another decision. And that's kind of where we are right now. We're in a position where we offered so many out-of-state students. We can't offer any more out-of-state students, even though we would want to take them every single day, but we will go over. And if you all have been paying attention to the news in the state of North Carolina, if you go over your allotment for X number of years, you may pay a healthy fine. And in our case, we did pay a 7-figure fine for going over 2 years in a row.
Yeah, we have similar things like that in Pennsylvania. I'm sorry, Candace, go ahead.
No worries. I just wanted to get in some of the comments from our community, and whether or not Hugh and Joseph, if you could weigh in on this. So the comment in the chat was from Terry White, and she asked, could you, if you're able, to speak about the success of HBCU graduates in graduate schools? Because we know that that is happening.
That is happening. I am a parent of one. She graduated from A&T in 3.5 years. Animal science student. Hugh, I didn't know you were a Gator, but she is a Gator also. She is a first-year student in the College of Veterinary Medicine at UF. There are 3 African Americans in the first-year class. All 3 of them came from HBCUs. One is a Tuskegee graduate. The other one is an A&T graduate. And so that's someone telling me I got someone waiting. But what I'm saying is that as a parent, my kid is doing great. It's a firsthand experience. But one of the things when we had career fair yesterday, and on our campus, recruiting in large numbers are predominant institutions that are recruiting our students for master's PhD programs. And I think people don't think about the next step after graduating from HBCUs is the natural thing for graduate schools to do is to come and recruit our students because they are prepared. And so when I walked through the career office or career fair yesterday, the section with graduate schools that are represented there, we had over 150 schools, and you can just list them, all types of names, all of the big brand schools, all the places that our students probably couldn't compete to get into, are recruiting them for graduate school. So we got a very robust interest from A&T, not just from an employment standpoint, but also for a professional school.
Yeah, I'm gonna echo the same sentiment as Joe. We actually do separate. We have a career fair that's one of the largest in the South. It's so large that we have to put it in our 15,000 seat Lawson Center here on campus. But then we also have a graduate career fair in which every single Ivy League institution is there. Major comprehensive research one, public and private PWIs. So I'll just echo the same sentiment that really I say that from an HBCU and more specifically from FAMU, right? Ultimately, you can go anywhere. We have students right now at MIT, at Harvard Law. I mean, you name it. But then furthermore, we also believe in curating our own. So when you think about it, we have a couple of accelerated programs. One is a 5-year, which a combined bachelor's and master's, which normally would take you 6 years, right, for that bachelor's and master's, but we have a combined MBA program. So a student will finish at FAMU within 5 years and leave with an MBA. And with a 3.5 GPA or better, you have between 5 and 10 job offers in terms of our students, the average. If you have a 3.0 or better, you have between 3 and 5, and even 2.5s and up at least have one job offer. And then of course, when you talk about average starting salaries, well, yeah, with that MBA, that allows you to command more money when you go into that corporate setting. Then, you know, we also, like I said, we're very big on curating our own. We have our own law school, so located in downtown Orlando. And I will tell you, same thing. We have a 3+3 legal scholars program where if you were taking the traditional route of going to law school, you would spend 4 years in undergrad and then take the LSAT, right? Apply to multiple schools and then, you know, attend one of those schools and spend 3 years. Where our 3+3 legal scholars program is 3 years in undergrad. So we accelerate that for you. You don't have to take an LSAT if you're in this program, and then you automatically transition into our law school down in Orlando. So when it comes to graduate degrees and success, those are one of the things you heard me talk about earlier, that performance funding matrix, or, you know, and here in the state of Florida that we're held accountable to. So we began to be really creative about making sure that our students were going on to graduate programs, top graduate programs in the country, as well as maintaining their graduate education here. And they're going on and they have some of the highest starting salaries of not just HBCUs, but just out of students in general coming from any school.
Fantastic. I think there's quite a bit that's also being shared in the chat with some our data guru Akil just keeps dropping the knowledge in the chat with some of the information. I'm going to open it up to the group for a last opportunity for questions. I am going to remind you to also please, if you have to scoot out, the meeting is not over because one of the best parts is coming up. So don't sign off yet. But if you do have to jet, please do the survey before you go. We have a meeting survey where we like to get your feedback and ideas. Do we have any questions from the group? We are probably just slightly small enough for you to ask an audible question if you're interested. And if not, go ahead and drop it in the chat. And we'll make sure that we address those questions. But this is your opportunity to add to your toolbox to get the information that you need. I think we're up to about 5 myths that we've dispelled already. right? Around the quality, the benefit, the cost of HBCUs. And I always do also say, please keep in mind, this is no different. You have to get to know your students. You have to employ college fit and college match as you would any institutions, because we want the student to be in the right place for them to thrive and succeed.
Candace, I want to acknowledge Michael Taylor, who recently joined us on the call. Michael Taylor is family to the Philadelphia College Prep Roundtable. He used to be the director of admissions at Lincoln University of Pennsylvania. He is now he's the executive director for enrollment at Southern University of Louisiana. Mike, I hope I gave that title correctly. But it's good to see you here, my brother, and welcome to the conversation.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Good morning, Tom. Pleasure, man. Apologize, everyone. I jumped on late. I'm juggling a lot of things here, but I'm actively listening, and I'm enjoying the conversation. And hope I'm just here, take sponging, being a sponge. But I am the Tom. I wish I was an executive director again, but I'm the vice chancellor for enrollment management at Southern University.
Well, that sounds fancier. Thank you for coming, Mike. Appreciate you.
There was a comment way back, question from Sigis, who said, if I can find it, he was asking the panelists if there was any research around whether the spread of test optional or test free has affected your schools. Does it mean you got a more diverse applicant pool? Are there fewer applicants because they're attracted to PWIs without needing the test score? You know, does anybody have any collective information on that, or even any anecdotal information on that?
So we've been looking at what does it mean to exist in the world of test optional, because prior to COVID, it was a requirement. As an institution, as at A&T, it's allowed us to have greater access to students. So that's one part. In terms of the retention, we haven't seen a massive fall off, but we also did some things differently in terms of staffing up the other side of the house with student support services. So there's more wraparound services than we had before, which we're trying to measure. Well, what does that mean with these wraparound services? Are we truly meeting students where they are and getting them to persist longer? And so the first class is persisting at a higher rate than prior to our COVID days. So we're moving in the right direction. We're gathering this type of intel to arm ourselves to having an educated conversation with the system office about the continuation of test optional policies. Obviously, we have to go with our data, and we have to go with evidence that remaining test optional isn't a negative thing in terms of persistence and graduation.
Thank you, Joseph. Appreciate that response.
Excellent. And Joe, do you have any final comments, any things that you want to bring up as we close this portion of the meeting?
I'm here looking for a report that came out from UNCF. It was a report called HBCUs Punching Above Their Weight, which gives you a lot of information, not just about the UNCF membered institutions, but it talks about how HBCUs are performing in general. And so I'm going to find that resource. I'm going to drop it into chat. so that this group can have it and read it at your leisure. It talks about the big publics, it talks about the privates and so on. So it gives I think it gives a pretty round perspective about what's happening at historically Black colleges and universities.
Excellent.
It
Hugh,
looks like Akil may have dropped that in the chat.
yeah.
I think.
Yeah,
He
he
dropped-
just
he
dropped the
dropped-
link.
a resource. I'm assuming that it's either the one that Joseph is talking about or similar. So we will make sure that everyone gets all the resources that have come out of this meeting. Hugh, anything that you'd like to say as we close the meeting?
No, just really just thankful for this opportunity to connect with you know, an amazing group that is interested in learning more and being able to promote our amazing institutions. You know, I gave my information earlier in the chat, so please don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions, or if you're a counselor, or whether you're CBO, it doesn't matter. If you want FAMU there and present, if it's not someone from my office, I can always connect. We have an amazing alumni basis in you know, Philadelphia and in the Northeast. So we're really excited about being able to get into your spaces, your high schools, right, and talk to students that are excited about the prospect of studying at an HBCU, and more specifically FAMU. Thank you so much.
No, thank you. I would like to, on behalf of this whole network and College Prep Roundtable in general, I really want to send our thank yous and appreciation to Joe Montgomery and Hugh. Both of you have done an outstanding job bringing us forward, giving us information on HBCUs. And please, from the group, can we give them a Zoom clap? We will be sharing resources. We will be making sure that people have access to their information and the general information about this particular meeting, as well as other resources that we have been compiling. So please make sure that you stay tuned. If you are not on our mailing list, the link is in the chat a couple of times. Please make sure you click that link so that you're going to receive up-to-date information from us, regular up-to-date on the money. The College Prep Roundtable does network meetings on the third Thursdays of each month. And so you're going to receive that information and more. So once again, thank you, gentlemen. This has been outstanding. Don't leave yet, because this is where we're going to move into getting some announcements from the group. And actually, you know, Joe and Hugh, if you think of announcements from your campuses, I don't know if you're having any open houses or any programming coming up, but as we do our announcements, I invite you to also share anything that's coming up from your institutions. Tom?
Yes, I want to very quickly align with the presentation today. Say, and someone did mention in the chat, there are a couple of actually HBCU events that are coming up in Philly, in the Philadelphia region. The one that seems like everybody pretty much knows about, and we've been promoting it in the PCPR emails, has been the HBCU event that's taking place through the Mann Music Center. So the Mann Music Center is actually putting it together along with TD Banks. We've been putting that in our email messages, highlight there, students will need to or should register for that event. Additionally, most of you do not know this, but put this on your hold list. On March 26th, UNCF is sponsoring an HBCU, and that's a Sunday, at Enon Tabernacle Baptist Church. It will probably, the timing will probably be, so I'm using the word probably, be between 11:30 and 3 p.m. So the folks who are coming out of service at Enon will probably have, again, first access information to that, the fair itself. And then the fair will continue on. So if you attend another church or you have something else you're doing on a Sunday, a brunch or whatever, and you want to get by to E9, it will be there. There will be the fair of HBCUs as well as some workshops that will take place during that afternoon. So again, March 26th, UNCF will host a fair. And then on May 20th at the Mann Music Center, they, along with TD Banks, is sponsoring a big HBCU, I'm going to call it an event, because there's going to be marching bands, there's going to be workshops and sessions and a lot of like more high scale stuff. A couple of known celebrities will be there. It's a big event. As always, I want to thank everyone for joining today. I hope this was beneficial for you. We wanted to create a space and a voice for particularly, again, Philadelphia area folks, but we're happy to see all of you who are not Philadelphia on this call. I think you're going to see an outgrowth of this topic meeting. So again, it started actually, the outgrowth started before this meeting by promoting the actual content of the information. You're going to see some growth in HBCU presence in a broader space. And again, making that HBCU knowledge a little more equitable with other types of institutions. We want to make sure you guys have that right and correct information. From a Philadelphia College Prep Roundtable perspective, again, as I'm going to reinforce what Ken said earlier, every third Thursday of the month, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m., this is our block, this is our space. We invite you to be part of the conversation. With that said, contact at College Prep Roundtable. Drop us an email and let us know what you want to talk about or what you want to hear more about. We're happy to entertain that from our network because we want to give you what you want to know. But this has been very exciting. Very happy that we were able to reach out to institutions that are beyond our usual Philadelphia, or what I'm going to say, recruitment space. We did not deliberately leave out Cheney or Lincoln on purpose, but we wanted to get a more of a national feel. Probably next time around when we do something like this, we will engage or invite private HBCUs. It wasn't intentional that these are 3 public colleges, but they are. So we'll make sure that we equitably give the information out. We'll try to pull in some private institutions and do that.